Kate, what brought you to Center for American Progress? How did you end up here doing this?
Well, I come from an economic development background, so I'm really a labor and economic person. I come out of the labor movement. I've done a lot of work with consumer rights and employment rights in my life, and I really saw clean energy, and still do, as a real economic driver, as a way to create millions of middle-class jobs, good jobs in this country, as a way for America to compete with other countries, in a way really to move forward, sort of both on climate and then the economy at the same time. So that's what brought me to the Apollo Alliance originally, which brings labor.
Riff a little bit about the Apollo Alliance.
Apollo is an organization that actually just merged with the Blue-Green Alliance, so it's not its own organization anymore. But what Apollo was when we started was an organization that, for the first time, brought labor, business, environment, and community groups together around a shared vision of how clean energy could create good jobs. So we were really focused on clean energy as an economic development tool, and in particular on the sort of the good green jobs side of it. Right. We started in 2003, and Apollo was really kind of in the vanguard of the green jobs movement. Van Jones was on our board, a number of the other folks, Carl Pope, Leo Gerard, who then spun off to create the Blue-Green Alliance. So it really was a great sort of meeting of the minds on this issue.
And those are some really great minds.
They are some really great minds. It was amazing. And it really gave rise, as I said, Carl and Leo went on to create the Blue-Green Alliance to really bring environment and labor together. And then Van went on to create Green for All, his organization that really brought this into the community and made it an issue for low-income folks as well as working class, sort of workers around the country.
You're an attorney.
I am.
I just saw that on your CV.
I am.
So, shall we debate Marbury versus Madison? Was it wrongly decided? I'd say so. I'm with Jefferson.
Exactly. I'm a recovered attorney.
Okay. All right. Are there legal issues around alternative energy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of different legal issues from... Well, and it's sort of interesting because energy law is just starting to become an issue in law schools around the country. People didn't used to talk about it. We used to do environmental law, which was just regulations, and then labor law, which was just basically NLRB decisions. Now you're seeing energy law bringing together a lot of these different areas about siting and permitting is a big issue for renewable energy projects, especially on public lands. You're also seeing just a lot of the contract issues with the companies themselves, the grid management issues, and on the labor side, there's a lot of sort of this meshes with labor law and workforce and employment law because there's a lot of jobs being created.
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating. There's a whole realm, but it doesn't sound like any of them are specifically energy law. They're like, as energy grows, it's throwing off all the normal things that any growing industry would.
Yep.
Is there an area of for example, the kind of the Bill McKibben world, of we're going to defend planet Earth. Is that an area of law that is growing?
Sure. I mean, that's sort of what you get in traditional environmental law. This whole question of who speaks for the land and who speaks for the water, who speaks for the animals, is really coming into the conversation about how we use our resources.
I have that Limbaugh makes fun of.
Exactly. I mean, I have a degree in city planning too, so I'm a lawyer and a planner, and I really see this as sort of the new frontier of land use and land resources.
That's
so how do we use this stuff?
Kate, we are going to rejoin our commercial station, so we'll be right back. We're talking with Kate Gordon. She's with the Center for American Progress, the Vice President for Energy Policy at the Center for American Progress. Stick around. We'll be right back. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Solar World. SolarWorld.com for information on solar electricity. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you live from the National Clean Energy Summit 4.0, the future of energy put on by the Center for American Progress. And with me is Kate Gordon. She is the Vice President for Energy Policy at the Center for American Progress, an attorney, a former planner.
That's right.
City planner?
Yep.
As in? I lived in Portland for 5 years. One of the best planned cities in America.
It is.
I tell you, it is so important. And we were talking just briefly during the break there about about law,
Yep.
environmental law coming out, city planning, and you made the comment that this is kind of an emerging edge. I forget the exact phrase you used, but can you revisit that?
Sure. I mean,
where
I
are we?
think, energy has become increasingly something that touches every part of, our economy, our environment, our cities, how we plan our cities. I really see this as the new frontier of sort of looking at how we use land or looking at how we use resources. We're really looking at public lands, private lands, individual business decisions, economic decisions. All of those are impacted by our energy use. All of those we have to start thinking about differently as resources are constrained, as climate change becomes a bigger threat. This is just touching every area of life. This is sort of why I find it difficult when people just talk about green jobs in a vacuum as if
Right.
they're some kind of job that doesn't have anything to do with anything we've seen before.
Right.
We're really talking about an economic transformation that affects every segment of the economy and every part of the United States and the world. And it's not like one segment of jobs. It's really a whole set of industries, a whole set of new ideas, a whole set of new policies that are affecting us across the board.
At the same time, and if this is an area that you're not involved in or you feel uncomfortable talking about, just say so and I won't push it. But at the same time, there are some substantial forces on the other side.
Yep.
The Center for American Progress, particularly Li Fang, one of my favorite
Fantastic blogger.
human beings
Yep.
on this earth, a brilliant researcher, blogger,
Yep.
reporter, have been exposing, for example, the activities of the Koch brothers, who are,
Yep.
I would say, America's oil oligarchs.
Yeah.
You know, we love to talk about Russia's oligarchs, but we have oligarchs. And their father Fred tried to transform America with the John Birch Society and had some significant impact on the Republican
Yep.
Party. I was a little kid at the time. My dad took me to a John Birch Society meeting back in '63 and '64. I was 13 years old, and I
Wow.
remember it. And now it's like I see the Tea Party as JBS 2. But the main focus seems to be, and one of the things we're hearing now in these memos that are coming out of the Republican Party about what they're going to be doing when they come back to Congress, is let's stop unnecessary regulations. And an awful lot of those, quote, unnecessary regulations have to do with oil refineries, oil pipelines, the production of oil-based products, toxics, cancer alleys in Louisiana and Texas, blah-de-blah-de-blah, all these things that have to do basically with the oil industry and the fossil fuel industry.
Yep.
How do we push back against an industry that arguably has more money or just, in aggregate certainly has enough money to elect or unelect virtually every member of Congress and the president?
It's a huge, huge issue. You're absolutely right. I actually just saw numbers recently showing that oil and gas together, their donations to the House, 85% of that went to Republican House members. The coal industry,
Surprise.
92% of the donations went to Republican House
shocked.
members.
I'm shocked.
I know, it's shocking. And so you're looking at all of these, many new members, at least in the House, who are very beholden to those industries.
Well, in fact, 100% of the freshman Republicans in the House do not believe in climate change.
Oh, I know. It's a terrifying. When we get visitors all the time at CAP from Germany and from China and from other countries who are just completely, their minds boggle at what's going on in this country in terms of the lack of commitment to dealing with global warming and to the just insistence on returning to the status quo, even in the face of huge evidence that we're running out of resources worldwide, that climate change is real. I mean, Saudi Arabia, of all countries, is moving ahead with a very aggressive solar program in order to conserve its resources on oil.
Right.
Saudi Arabia is doing that, and we haven't committed.
They've probably hit peak oil there.
It is, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, my big fear is, of course, that we know we're going to wake up to this reality at some point, despite the politics. My big fear is that we wake up and we're suddenly the world's buyers of all clean energy technology and buyers of all of the stuff that we could have invented and made and
Well, we're
advanced.
increasingly moving in that direction.
We are.
I mean,
We are. I think the way we push back, honestly, really is on this competition and this competitiveness frame. I mean, we are used to being the world leader in innovation and in technology and in advanced manufacturing. As Secretary Chu just said at this summit, China's now ahead of us on advanced manufacturing. And Chairman Hu came to visit this country, brought with him 150 people, most of whom went around to our national labs to find new technologies to then commercialize in China. We are losing that edge. That edge is something that people in this country want us to maintain. People want things to be made in America. They want us to be the world innovators. They want us to be ahead. I think that's the way to push back, because in a lot of these districts, a lot of the constituents of these same House members are business owners, care about the economy, have jobs, are trying to create jobs here. I think that's where we go.
We have just a minute here until the actual end of the segment. And, in 1935, Franklin Roosevelt passed the Buy American Act that said that any expenditures by government had to go to American companies. It's still on the books.
Yes,
Reagan basically stopped enforcing it. Nobody's enforced it in 30 years.
Except Department of Transportation, as Chandra Brown here pointed out.
Do?
They do. They're actually quite good on transportation vehicles and other.
Okay. How do we encourage the administration, and not just the administration, politicians in general, to return to that? It's not like we even have to pass legislation.
Well, I think there's a couple things about Buy America. The first thing I would say, the first thing we need to do is actually enforce it where and close the loopholes where it is on the books. I mean, we already, Buy America does apply to most of the things under the Recovery Act, to transportation vehicles, to a number of other areas, federal expenditures. We need to close loopholes there so that if a company comes back and says to the government, hey, we can't find anyone in America who makes this, give us a waiver, we need the government to be putting that up on the website, asking the rest of the companies in the United States whether there really is no one making this thing, getting people to stand up, as they will do, and say, no, I make it, I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and let me have the contract. So we need to close the loopholes.
Or help them out in making it.
Exactly, make it much more transparent, close the loopholes. But then then as well, I think we really need to capitalize on what we do well here, on our skilled workforce, on our advanced manufacturing, on our existing supply chains, and get places like the auto industry really up to speed.
I'm with you. Kate, we're out of time. Thanks so much for being with us.